This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Opinions Vary. That's Opinions with an A. Please like, share, and subscribe. We have an Abby Phillips Roundtable talking about election integrity and how Donald Trump's appointees to the DOJ might affect future election integrity and past election questions. Let's go.
I think that it is not outside the bounds of the Department of Justice or other agencies to look at election security broadly in America. I think people need to know that their elections are secure up and down the food chain from, every election there's problems, there are issues, right? And so I think, listen, I think everyone should welcome, listen, I think everyone should welcome it.
That let's have it over with. Trump won in this election and suddenly there are no issues.
No, nobody's saying there's no issues, Abby Phillips. And once again, you're being a debater. You're not being a moderator. You're interjecting your own opinion into the conversation. You're a disgrace, but you're entertaining for me and you provide good content. There are still problems. The fact that Pennsylvania, he's going to get into that. Ridiculous what went on in Pennsylvania again this election. California takes forever to count their votes. Arizona takes forever to count their votes. All of these swing states, there's always issues. Georgia looks to have gotten it under control with their new election law they passed. That, by the way, didn't Jim Crow everybody out of voting. Georgia had phenomenal turnout this election. Michigan seems to take too long sometimes. Wisconsin, it comes down to this, these votes, they just take forever to count, and then all of a sudden a big ballot dump happens. It's enough already.
No, I think
I've heard him talk about a single problem.
No, I can tell you there are lots of problems in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania over the course of the night, and remaining up until Bob Casey conceded this week. You had Democratic elected county officials saying we're not going to follow the law, we're going to count ballots in opposition to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
They conceded the race.
But those
We conceded the race. Yeah, Abby Phillips, they conceded the race. You know what happened this time? Republicans were more prepared. They weren't going to let it happen again. What's going on? And he's going to get into what the Bucks County commissioners did, and they should be arrested. But the Republicans were more prepared this time to challenge this stuff and had their eyes on it. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you know the saying. So that didn't happen this time. But I still have about Michigan and Wisconsin, the votes that just keep coming later and later, and suddenly a couple of races just flip. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I have to be careful what I say on this channel. Why should it even be able to be questioned? Get the votes done quickly. Count them. This is the United States of America.
elected officials in Bucks County said we're gonna deny the law. We're gonna oppose what the Supreme Court said.
Maybe they did that, but they
no, not maybe they did that. They did that, Abby Phillips. And why aren't you calling for them to be arrested? They violated the law intentionally. Why were they doing that, Abby Phillips?
Still lost. They lost.
I understand, but my point is that people don't have when the county commissioner who's elected sits there and says, "I'm not going to follow the law. I don't care what the law says." We should investigate.
One of the things about
let me just go. We're done with you. You're making too much sense, and I have no way to even though, as I said, she's supposed to be a moderator. In this case, she has no way to debate what he said because it's just completely factual.
Trump's election lies is that he keeps describing it as election security, as you just did. When that's
Yeah, he just provided you with clear-cut evidence of tampering with ballots. And you go at him like he just made something up. These people are incredible.
Not at all what he is talking about. He is talking about ballots that were tampered with in Venezuela and all kinds of ridiculous things. Let's take the time machine back to February of 2023. This is a Washington Post story. Former President Donald Trump's 2020 campaign commissioned an outside research firm in a bid to prove electoral fraud claims, but never released the findings because the firm disputed many of his theories and could not offer any proof that he was the rightful winner of the election. That's according to 4 people familiar with the matter. Meaning Meanwhile,
It's 4 people familiar with the matter, guys. All right, it's just 4 people. We don't know their names. We don't know who they are. We don't know any of their leanings whatsoever. But they're 4 people familiar with the matter. Okay, and from the Washington Post. So, I'm sorry. Let me just stop the video right now. Case closed. I'm sorry. You're right, Abby Phillips.
over at the Justice Department, this is what they're going to be potentially handed with. I want to start with Jack Smith's team, right? Because Jack Smith is already moving to basically dissolve this case against Trump because he cannot be prosecuted as president.
Jack Smith should be in jail too.
He cannot be tried as president. Trump now wants to go further down into the ranks. Career people who are supposed to have protections, will he be able to do that?
Well, it'll be hard. I have worked in the federal government, and I've worked in the Department of Justice, and I have tried to fire people. It's not as easy as it looks. Now, there are alternatives here that are unpleasant. One is you transfer people to jobs that are so beneath them or inconvenient or unpleasant that they decide to leave of their own accord, which does not negate the idea that they could bring suit that they were put in that position
retaliation,
as retaliation.
Go ahead, sue.
On the other hand, people may just decide to leave because of those atmospherics. But I mean, the cart is before the horse here, Abby. The idea is, if you want to bring in OPR, the Office of Professional Responsibility, and launch a legitimate investigation into whether their conduct was above or below board, and then take personnel actions, that's one thing. Firing them and saying, we're going to investigate it after, is a little upside down. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Well, the idea, right, isn't necessarily getting to the bottom of the matter and making sure all these people are ethical and honest. The idea is retribution and making...
Wait a minute. If they're not ethical and honest, there shouldn't be consequences? It's just retribution. No. Like John Miller just said, let's see if we have any. They might have something on them already that needs to be questioned. Were they ever investigated? Really investigated? Probably not.
This team of professionals who showed up to do a job they were asked to do by their bosses, whether the boss is a Republican or a Democrat. That's what civil servants and professionals are trained to do. It puts that sense of public service not only under scrutiny, but makes it really unattractive for people.
All right, so there's no corruption. There's never any corruption in any of these jobs. Only the cops. The cops are the only ones that are ever corrupt. The police are the only civil servants that are ever corrupt, according to people like you.
Who are
that's the
happy,
point.
right? Happy to serve in a government regardless of their politics.
I think you have to look at this other wrinkle, which is...
Because we saw all that during Trump's presidency, right? Regardless of their politics. Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, that ring a bell for you? Ding dong. Hello?
One of the things that he started to do and ultimately didn't complete at the end of the last administration, the Trump administration, and has promised to do again, is this Schedule F employee initiative, which is to hire people who pass the loyalty test, not protected by civil service, easier to bring on, and more importantly in this model, easier to fire. So now basically you could have thousands of people who wouldn't be on the level of political appointees, not protected by civil service, but doing those jobs, who would basically be there only for their loyalty and their willingness to carry out instructions.
I get that.
Their willingness to carry out instructions. Isn't that what employees are supposed to do? If they're lawful instructions, you are to carry them out, no? Maybe that's a good thing, because it seems like these people that never, ever have to worry about getting fired. And in fact, if they fail upwards, which Washington, D.C. that's the business model in Washington, D.C. You fail, you move up. You actually get promoted. So maybe it's a good thing. You have some people who actually will do the job they're tasked to do, and having to actually worry about getting fired if they don't do the job the right way. Maybe that's a good thing. I think it kind of works that way 95% of the rest of the world.
I get the Republicans' argument that you get to win, you get to pick the bosses, you get to pick who you fire. I understand.
Just take that stupid hat off. You're not fooling anybody.
And that to a certain degree, but as I was working in races around the country, nobody said anything about what y'all are talking about or the reason why they were going to go vote. Democrats lost this election because of gas and groceries, other things that happened, but none of it was around making sure that the election was safe. None of it.
That's not true. A lot of it was about making sure the elections are safe. How many votes to these people, to the guy with the fake cowboy? How many fraudulent votes is too many for him? I just want somebody to ask that question. Because to me, one fraudulent vote canceling out the legitimate vote of an American citizen is too many. And I don't care who the American citizen voted for. One fraudulent vote is too many. How many is okay for you, cowboy, fake cowboy? How many?
This was around retribution, even though he talked about it in all the rallies. People thought, but the voters that I dealt with from New York to California, this is not. So I think this comes back to bite Republicans as it continues, because it will not stop here.
What's about
Yeah, well, you're going to be wrong about that like you've been wrong about everything else over the last 4 years.
political capital, right? How much political capital the president has. When you start out, any administration has so much political capital. How you choose to expend that political capital is incumbent on the president. So if he does, as like Chuck says, if he spends it on and getting people through that he really thinks can effectuate change, at the grocery store, the gas pump, putting in people like the new Secretary of the Treasury, other people who are really going to effectuate change and make things happen. That's one thing. If you're going to go chase ghosts and try to push people through who may not get confirmed by the Senate, you're going to burn a lot of political capital in the Senate. They believe they're an equal body, a partner. They've read the Constitution a lot, those senators.
There's a lot.
No, they haven't. There's a lot of those senators I don't think that ever looked at the Constitution once in their life.
There's a lot of people that got appointed tonight. I just want to make sure before I talk a lot of trash on you that you didn't get a job tonight. There's like 15 of us before I got up here that got a job. So I won't talk smack on you, but if you're going to be assistant FBI director, I don't want no part of it.
I don't know. Listen,
You got news for us tonight?
No, listen, I was.
Go ahead.
I live in Arizona, so everybody talks about how we count votes. There was some very sensible election integrity pieces of legislation that got vetoed by our governor. That phrase, election integrity, has turned into a combative phrase. We all want elections to be quick and the votes counted quickly. We want it to be easy to vote.
No, we don't. Obviously, we all don't want that. I do. Apparently, you do. But apparently, we all don't want that.
Hard to cheat. And you can't even work on legislation right now. We had some good people on our county board of supervisors leave, Republicans leave, because of how they were treated over the 2020 election. Right. But the citizens in Arizona, the only place I disagree with you is that where we are, it takes so long for us to count in Maricopa County, and then everybody complains it takes so long, but they won't let the measures get through legislatively to fix it.
So, Mike,
Why does it take so long in Maricopa County? You're there. Can somebody ask him that question? If Abby Phillips was an actual journalist, say, why does it take so long? What are some of the reasons? You're there. You're on the ground. What are some of the reasons as to why it's taking so long to count votes in Maricopa County every single election? But we just brush right past that, and we'll just go to the next talking point.
I'm curious about, you're in a state where Carrie Lake.
Right. We're just going to go to the Carrie Lake election denier talking point now. Forget about trying to actually figure out why it takes so long to count votes, and that lends to the fact of why people don't trust the vote. Forget that.
Was, she was like the
number one
queen
election denier.
Right? Like there's Trump and then there's Carrie Lake, essentially. And she didn't win.
Right.
For a second time now in a row. How do you think real voters who maybe they actually did vote for Trump this time around and they didn't vote for him the last time around are going to see this effort to just stay on this issue that has already been settled?
It's been settled? By who? Who settled it? Again, we're still counting votes in California 3 weeks later. Arizona takes 3 weeks to finish the counting their votes. What's settled? Nothing's settled. It's another one. It's debunked. It's settled. It's this. Why? Because you say so? No, it's not. And you have no finger on the pulse of what the American people are actually thinking. None, which is why you lose.
I think it's wait and see. Let's see what they actually do. The conjecture right now and what they're saying may happen. If he does it, I think there's going to be some pushback from some people saying, well, I thought they would have learned the lesson in 2022 that 2020 cost them in 2022 was not cost effective for them with the way they fought about 2020. So if they do that again, they're going to have trouble coming up in 2026, I think.
What happened in Arizona is you had a whole lot of people that voted for Donald Trump and a guy named Ruben Gallego, because I worked on that race for 2 years. And I think that's the biggest difference is you can't now say that there was some kind of thing going on at the top of the ticket, because in places like Michigan and in Wisconsin, the Senate candidates got less votes than Harris and still won because people went into the ballot box and voted for Donald Trump and left.
To your point, Abby, and to Chuck's point earlier, what Donald Trump and the campaign did was amazing, right? They created this coalition of like working class white rural voters. Black and brown working class voters in the cities, right? It was really, truly masterful, right?
Don't make me admit none of that.
And those folks, right? Those folks are counting on what Chuck said. They want lower gas prices. They want, they feel inflation every day. And so to them, I think a lot of this stuff they're not really focused on that. They want to see what the results are. There's an incredible amount of pressure going to be on this administration to get costs down and get things going.
Urban, it sounds like you think it's a bad idea.
I think it's a waste of political capital.
Yeah, well, that's why you're a former campaign advisor to Trump, and you're not going to be ever again. It's not a waste of capital. And why is it these people are none of them seem to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time? You notice that? It's the same thing what was going on with the other day when I did the video on the transgender bathroom issue. Oh, they're bringing this up. We have other things to worry about. Okay, you could bring this up and you could try to get to the bottom of this while you're also doing all the other things. Isn't that what you get paid for? Isn't that what you were elected to do? To multitask? Why is it always that you can't multitask? This is just a bad idea. Yeah, no, it's why it's a bad idea? Because it's going to hurt you, Abby Phillips, and people like you who vote for Democrats. That's why. It's going to hurt your side. That's why you think it's a bad idea. You don't want anybody to get to the bottom of why it takes 3 weeks to count votes in California or 3 weeks to count votes in Arizona, or who knows how many people that are on the voter rolls don't belong there anymore. You don't want to get to the bottom of any of that. You don't want to talk about voter ID. Why? Because it hurts your side. So you say, oh, well, it shouldn't do this. It's a waste of time. It's wasting political capital. No, it's not. As somebody like me, I want this solved. And so does everybody else like me that voted for Trump. They want this solved. We don't want to go through what we went through in 2020 ever again. I don't want to question the election results. I want to know if I won, my side won. I want to be confident in it. If my side lost, I accept it knowing the vote was the vote. Nobody feels like that now. Now I look online now and I got plenty of people that are Democrats say, "Oh, this should be a recount. This couldn't Trump. How did he didn't win every swing? He couldn't have won every swing state. We want a recount." So it goes on both sides. Whoever loses now, after the debacle of 2020, whoever loses now says, "Oh, no, it must have been cheating." No, that needs to stop. And there needs to be voter ID laws. The voter rolls need to be up to date every year. Those are two simple things that could really instill confidence back into our election system. And it shouldn't take more than 48 hours to count the votes. 48 hours is plenty of time in the year 2024, because we used to do it in every other election before 2020. Votes seem to get counted. Well, 2016 took a while too for some reason. But it seems like before that, it was counted. We knew. Maybe a race here and there that came down to a couple of hundred votes in the House, had to be recounted. Okay, it'll happen. But these presidential elections and these senatorial races, these votes, they don't come within a couple of hundred votes. We're talking thousands of votes, even in a close race. So this is nonsense, and it needs to stop. And the only people that seem to not want it to stop are the Democrats. Why is that? Why are they against voter ID? Why don't they have a problem with it taking weeks to count votes? I don't know. Maybe somebody could tell me that. How many of you guys think in the comments? Appreciate you watching. Continue to follow me at Opinions Vary.